Good morning, students.
Good morning, ma'am.
So I am now using my machine so that we can play the prayer. Okay. So after this I will use my PC.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yeah.
There is so much disturbance coming
Yeah,
from
yeah,
your
yeah,
side.
yeah, yeah. So let's just this is for the prayer. Okay. So after playing the prayer, I will do the connection again. Okay. Let's get started.
ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरि ओम् ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्युषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्यो मा अमृतं गमय ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ सर्वेषां स्वस्तिर्भवतु सर्वेषां शान्तिर्भवतु सर्वेषां पूर्णं भवतु सर्वेषां मङ्गलं भवतु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ पूर्णमद पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरि ओम्
Good morning, students. I am audible, right?
हाँ मैम हाँ मैम.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, yeah. So that was for the prayer. You know, I actually am forgetting to keep prayer in my mobile, so I will do it. from next time I will do that. Okay. 1 minute, I'm just sharing my machine. All right, so we are able to see now. It kept it open. Where did it? Sorry, we are not start. Okay, we'll be starting that, not now. So we were discussing about Bellman food, right? So I hope you found time to see that. Hmm? We had discussed Dijkstra's algorithm. Then this Dijkstra's algorithm. Okay, yeah. Yes. Right, so typically we were here, so the firstly we asked a question, we wanted to observe something, right? So what is the observation? So to make that observation, we first found out this one, that how many edges is the shortest path from S to A, and we found that was 3 edges. From S to B was 5 edges, 1 2 3 4 5, and S to D was 7 edges, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. And when we work out with the algorithm, that is what we get also, right? So in iteration 7, we find that D and all other nodes have the correct distance and path. Okay, so what is the observation? So what is a loop invariant? What exactly we want to say by, by seeing that observation? Okay, this is a loop invariant. That is a property that is true before the loop, and that is a property that is true after the loop also. Okay, so the loop invariant is this after iteration I. Okay, so now we must know what we are calling as an iteration. After iteration I, all vertices with shortest path from the source of length I, edges or less, have the correct distance. That is what happens in Bellman-Ford algorithm. Okay, that's a loop invariant. Okay, so this is a property. If we are tracing the Bellman-Ford algorithm, this is what happens. So every iteration, so if I am saying that for A, it is the iteration 3. If for A, if there are 3 minimum, the minimum shortest path is 3 edges. Okay, so in iteration 3, we are going to get the correct distance for A, and any other node for which the path is less than 3, for them also it will be a correct distance. Very, very logical, right? We can understand that. So if you say for G that, so for G the path length is only 1, that is also correct, right? For F, the path length is 8 plus 1, 9, that is also correct. That we never updated after that, right? So anything which is going to be, the number of iteration is going to tell you is exactly matching with the number of edges we are far from the source node. Okay, that is the observation that we call as a loop invariant. Okay, so those have the correct distance. Okay, so then we come to runtime of Bellman-Ford. Okay, what will be the runtime of Bellman-Ford? Okay, so yes, so we have written here it is going to be OV into E. Okay, we have written here it is OV, number of vertices into number of edges. Okay, how are we going to get that? Okay, so so is there any doubt in this OV into E, runtime of Bellman-Ford? So this is a dominating term, OV into E, right? That you are going to get from this for loop, right? Rest everything that you calculate will be lesser than this. So you are going to add, you are going to see the dominating term. So this dominating term will come from line number 5 to 9, right? OV into E. Okay. So now the next question for you is to do your research. If you really want to find out, you can see it in the book. It is in the exercise problem in the book. Okay, you can just find out that can you modify the algorithm to run faster in some circumstances? Okay, that's the standard typical time OV into E. Can you do some modification into this so that in some circumstances, not always. See, actually, when we talk about the complexity, we always consider the worst case complexity, right? So your worst case complexity is going to be OV into E. But are there some scenarios for which you can make the algorithm run better than that, OV into E, in some circumstances? So that is an open question for you. Okay, you can try that out. All right. Okay, so now we talk about, so whatever we spoke, right? We spoke about Dijkstra's algorithm and we also spoke about Bellman-Ford algorithm. Okay, and we named them as single source shortest path, right? I showed you the book. The book's chapter number is also chapter 24 that I showed you is single source shortest path. Okay, there are other algorithms as well. Okay, so we discussed two algorithms of that is single source shortest path. Okay, now what is our aim is, why do we say it as single source shortest path? Because we know when in the algorithm you had a fixed source, right? So the graph is given to you. You had been given a graph G and the starting node S. And algorithm was typically finding the minimum distance of every other node from the source node, right? That is what it was doing. Single source shortest path. Okay, so that is the reason we call them as single source shortest path. So we want to now find out all pair shortest path, right? So you know the utility of finding all pair shortest path. All pair shortest path means we want to find out the minimum distance from one node to every other node. From A to B, A to C, A to D, A to E, from B to C, B to D, like that, right? From every node, we want to find out the shortest path for every other node. You know that why it is required, right? In case of communication, you require, in case of networking, you can, anything, that you are able to translate into a network, right? Your pipelining system, I mean, let us say, for your water pipelining, for your telephone line, for your transportation, anything that you are able to represent in form of a graph, right? You must find out the minimum distance between any two nodes, right? So what could be the simplest approach for all pair shortest path, right? So the simplest approach could be, if I know a single pair, a single source shortest path, that from one node I can find out distance from every other node. So same algorithm I can apply for every node, right? Same algorithm can be applied for every node those many number of times. So I can apply single source shortest path for node A, then I apply single source shortest path for node B, then node C, then node D, like that, and I keep on getting the minimum distance from every other node. That could be one simple most approach, right? So you must be thinking, no, we know some other approaches also in networking. You would have learned other algorithms also to find out the minimum distance, right? You would have learned minimum distance between from one node to any other node. You know about routing table and all those kind of stuff, right? Hmm? So let us talk about those applications. We can discuss later. Okay, so let us talk about this. Let's start with the simple most approach, right? So One approach could be you can call Bellman-Ford mod V times, or any other algorithm that is a single source shortest path algorithm. Mod V times, if I call Bellman-Ford algorithm, the complexity is going to be V square E. O mod of V square into mod of E, right? So we call it as OV square E. Corresponding to every vertex, I want to call Bellman-Ford. V like that. So every time for every node it is VE. So it is going to be V square E, V into VE, right? Then you have other algorithms also, that one of them is called as Floyd-Warshall. Okay, for that the complexity comes as theta VQ. Okay, so we are typically not discussing Floyd-Warshall algorithm here, but that algorithm is also there, right? Typically naming another algorithm, the next algorithm that we can see is Johnson's algorithm, right? That has the complexity of OV square log V plus VE. Okay, so if I had given you projects, right? If I had given you projects, I mean, if project was one of the component students, I would have given these algorithms for you to study and to implement. Okay, last time your seniors had done that. Last time we were just, we had a lot of liberty to decide the components. This time, it was all fixed 50-50. So your seniors had done this. So I had typically given them the question to compare the algorithms, Floyd-Warshall and Johnson's algorithm, and to find out what is the property of Johnson's algorithm. And I also asked them to actually uh, check the runtime. So let me just say, I asked them to implement Floyd-Warshall. They also implemented Johnson's algorithm. Okay, so one was the complexity that is typically given for Floyd-Warshall, let us say V cube. Then I asked them to actually find out the runtime. Okay? Runtime means how much time your algorithm actually took to execute. Okay, so you have written a code. So just before the code, just before you start executing, you can call one function that gives you system time. After your implementation is over, you call the same function. Okay, that gives you the current time, current system time, and you have to subtract those two times. So it actually tells you that how much time it takes. Okay, so your seniors had really done nice projects. So you can always do that, students. Floyd-Warshall and Johnson's algorithm. It is there.
Ma'am,
Okay. Yeah.
can you go back to the previous slide? This only. Actually, for some algorithms, we mention it as theta, and for others, we mention order. Like theoretically, I understand the difference, but when we will be deciding, no, ma'am, we will be checking the loop alone. So, how to arrive whether it is theta or order?
You can call it as O. You can consider it as O. Wherever it is theta, no, you can consider it as O. Okay. Theta means it is both O and as well as omega. Okay. So you can consider it as O. So typically for Floyd-Warshall, it is written as theta. You can call it as O. Right. So big O, we will take it as big O only. Okay. Yeah. So no need to get confused. It is, I will make it as O only. So it is actually O, not an issue. Okay. Don't worry. I will save it. Okay, so what I was telling students here, this is chapter number 24. So it is all given, students. It is there in the book. Now, if you are typically asking me that, I would like you to read at least, okay, that what is Johnson's algorithm. And Supriya ma'am told me typically that you have already done Floyd-Warshall algorithm in your data structures. Is it true?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. And what about Johnson's algorithm?
No, ma'am.
Johnson's algorithm you have not done. Okay. So please, at least Floyd-Warshall you must know, okay, how it is different. Okay. And if you see it is, no, then maybe probably, which one you will say as better, it is Bellman-Ford is better or Floyd-Warshall is better. Okay. So you can, it's a typical question because it is multiplied by E and V square E may not be much of the difference between O V cube and V square into E. Okay. And then Johnson's algorithm. Okay, so please see what is Johnson's algorithm as well. Okay, for your knowledge.
Actually, we
Okay.
read this algorithm some 2 times or thrice, ma'am. Once it came in data, I'm not sure, but then I remember it so many times. And I think some course with Supriya ma'am took theory of computations before, down only, ma'am, down only. Design and analysis of algorithms. I think it happened started in offline and then we moved to online. That time also we read all this.
So she
So-
told me, yeah. So I discussed with her because she has taught you, she and Kavita ma'am probably they both taught you data
Oh.
structures, right? I think so. So I had
She
discussed with
means
her. Hmm?
she means Supriya ma'am. No, Shiva ma'am.
Yeah. No. It's not
Okay.
Shriba ma'am, Supriya ma'am. Supriya ma'am has taught you,
Okay,
no?
okay.
DA, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
So,
Initially, Vishwas
yes.
sir was taking.
Okay. Okay, so at least please see this, students. At least you see what is Johnson's algorithm. It is there in the book. Okay, v square log v plus ve. Okay, and typically, last time it was really nice. I am not asking you to do that, but your seniors had actually done this comparison between Floyd Warshall's and Johnson's algorithm. To see actually how much is the difference. V square log v plus ve and OV square. So most of them were using Java to implement, and few of them also used Python to implement. Okay, so because they had a component, this project they did maybe for 15 marks or 20 marks. I don't remember now. Okay, so fine. So you can please see that, students. Okay, what we will discuss is we will talk about now minimum spanning tree, right? So you all of you know what is the meaning of minimum spanning tree. So typically you have been given a graph, right? And you want to have a connected component, right? You want to have a tree from the graph. That is, you want to have a tree means you want to reach from one node to every other node. That connectivity should not be lost. But I want to follow the minimum path, right? So basically it is going to tell me, it is like you want to reach from one node to every other node with minimum distance, right? So what exactly it is, let us learn it theoretically. What is the lowest weight set of edges? What is the lowest weight set of edges that connects all vertices of an undirected graph with positive weights? Okay, when we are talking of minimum spanning tree, we are keeping in mind that we are dealing with undirected graph, and that graph has all weights as positive. And then we want to find out what is the lowest set of edges, lowest weight, which all edges I need to collect, which are going to give me the lowest weight. And the graph should be connected. The vertices should be connected means it becomes a tree, right? Minimum spanning tree. So the input is an undirected positive weight graph. Input is an undirected positive weight graph wherein it has been given to me. This is V, a graph V and edges E. There is nothing called as the source node or something because I want to find a spanning tree of a graph. And the output is, it is going to be a tree. V, the tree must have all the nodes. That is why the V is common, and E dash. E dash means it's a typical subset of E. E dash is a subset of E that can be equal to E or it's a subset. It may have less number of edges or same number of edges. That minimizes the weight of the tree. Weight of tree T is sigma E belongs to E dash. You are going to make a summation of all the weights. That should be minimized. That is a typical definition of spanning tree, right? So typical example, you would have seen this before also, right? So suppose this is a graph given to us. Now we want to find out a minimum spanning tree. Simple, without apply, we are not applying any algorithm now. We are just saying, can this be a minimum spanning tree, right? So we are trying to find out a tree which has the minimum number of weights. So we have selected this one, we have selected this two, then we have selected this four, and this five. We did not select this four, we did not select this three, right? Because when we were getting, if I am adding this 1 2 and then if I also add AD, I get a cycle. typically you know that tree does not contain a cycle. And there will be only one path going from one node to other node. That is the idea. So we have not added this 3. So the question is, why I have not added this 3, but I have added this 4? So we know that, so we will have an algorithm which will not let us add this 3, but this 4. Then why I did not add this 4? I could have added, rather than this 4, why I did not add this 4? Another question, right? I could have done that also. Probably that does not give me the minimum spanning tree, or I don't know whether that also gives me a minimum spanning tree. Okay, that is for reaching from any other node, that is AB plus AC plus CD plus CF plus FE. All these weights should be minimum. There will be multiple spanning trees. There will be multiple spanning trees, and sometimes, we also get that there are 2 spanning tree and both of them are minimum spanning tree. That is also possible, right? That you would have seen. So you have been given a graph. There are 2 or 3 answers possible for minimum spanning tree, because all the 3 leads to this condition. What is the condition? That weight of T is this, and this is the weight is minimized by selecting those set of edges, right? So can an MST have a cycle? That is the next question. The answer is no, right? Because you are first of all calling MST, minimum spanning tree. So tree cannot have a cycle. I don't know, I've written an answer or not for that. I've not written an answer for that, but you know that, right? Can an MST have a cycle? No, it cannot have a cycle. It cannot have a cycle, right? Takes time because there is a lot of animations and all those involved, no? Okay, so I will not save from next time. So, and the MST cannot have a cycle, we know. So that is the reason that, we are not, if we are selecting a particular edge, we cannot select another particular edge, right? So what are the applications? All of us know, as I told you, that connectivity, right? So anywhere you make a network, any application which can be represented in form of a network, right? There you are going to have the use of spanning tree. So networks in communication, in circuit designing, in wiring, everywhere it is a network, right? So your flight, your transportation, any model, you have, and then you also have traveling salesperson's problem, TSP, right? Wherein the traveling salesperson wants to visit to maximum places with, so that he has to follow the minimum cost. He has to follow the minimum distance. So TSP we will be studying when we talk about dynamic programming and other approaches as well. Okay, so we will take it up there. So, so typically we are saying that any problem where we are able to represent it in form of networks, we are going to use the spanning tree concept. Okay, so now we want to understand, what could be the algorithmic ideas. Okay, so here typically, we want to get from this, we want to get this, right? And typically, any node is not given to me here, right? A graph is given to me, but they have not given me any node from which node I should start, right? But another thing is, I know that all the nodes have to be covered. All the nodes, all the vertices will be there in the spanning tree. So typically we can pick any node of our choice, right? We can pick any node of our choice. That is what I feel. We can pick, I can start with F, or I can start with C and then start seeing my approach. So that could be one thing. Okay, so let us, before talking, before actually exploring the algorithm for spanning tree, let us see some basics, such that when I apply a particular algorithm, I see that, okay, whether these basic properties are being followed or not, so that my algorithm works correctly, right? My algorithm has to work all the time correctly. So there are some typical things that we need to see when we generate an algorithm. You already know the algorithms. You also know the algorithms, what we will be talking about. Okay, so there are some typical properties that we need to understand. Okay, so first thing, that it's a term, it's a definition, you can say, that is called as cut. Okay, what exactly we mean by a cut? Okay, so any typical graph is given to me. This is a graph. Okay, so what I'm saying is I am cutting the graph. I am drawing a line to cut the graph. Okay, so what is a cut? A cut is a partitioning of the vertices into two sets, S and V minus S. So these two sets are disjoint sets. Okay, the nodes which you have covered in S, they are not there in V minus S. The two disjoint set, that is called as a cut. What is a cut? Cut is just a line that separates the set of vertices. And then an edge crosses the cut. An edge crosses the cut if it connects a vertex U belongs to V and V belongs to V minus S. So what we are saying that if this is a typical graph given to us, this is a cut. Now I will say that edges CF and edges DF crosses the cut. Simple, that is typically seen, right? I'm saying that CF and DF crosses the cut. Okay, why I'm saying these two crosses the cut, that is typically seen because one node is from this set, from set S, and another node is from another set. One node is from this set, another node is from this set. So this is a typical property. Now, why did we learn this property? What exactly is the significance of this? Okay, what is the significance of this cut and the edges? Those crosses the cut. Okay, so the significance is minimum cut property. What is the meaning of minimum cut property? Given a partition S, a partition is already given to us. Okay, given a partition S means the two sets have been given to us. Two sets or more than two sets. Let us say right now two sets. Later on we will talk about more sets. Okay, you must be now remembering about Kruskal's algorithm. Something must be coming in your mind. Okay, so if
Yes,
given a
we
party, yeah,
understand
yeah,
this,
yes, yes. So what we are trying to do is a partition is given to us. Let HAE be the minimum cost edge that crosses the partition. Okay, then every minimum spanning tree contains the HE. Now we need to prove this. Okay, so the proof is simple, like how we are proving by contradiction or by through examples, the same way we will do. So what we are saying, what is a minimum cut property? Minimum cut property is a partition is given to me. Okay, a partition is given to me, and let's say there are, in this typical example, there are two edges. Those are crossing the cut. One is CF, another one is DF. Now, if I see the weight, CF has a smaller weight than DF. CF is having 4 and DF is having 6. So what we are saying that in such a case, if there is a cut, okay, and there are more than one edges that crosses the cut. So what will happen in a minimum spanning tree? If I'm not talking about a spanning tree. Okay, what is a spanning tree? Spanning tree typically is a tree that will have all the vertices and there will be and all the vertices and it's a connected tree. That is what is a spanning tree. That all vertices are connected and it's a tree. It's a tree means it's not a graph. There is no cycle. But we are talking about minimum spanning tree. Minimum, so like that there are many spanning trees available. Right? Many spanning tree available in a graph, but we always want to find out the minimum spanning tree. So the property is, if such a case is there, then if you say that there is a minimum spanning tree, then the minimum spanning tree is going to have the edge that weight minimum. Okay, so if I say I'm going to generate a minimum spanning tree between these two sets, then I have to select CF, I cannot select DF. So if it's a minimum spanning tree, so please see, I think someone has unmuted by mistake probably. Yeah. Okay, so given a partition S, let E be the minimum cost edge that crosses the partition. Every minimum spanning tree is going to contain the HE. Okay, so that we need to prove. Okay, so we will see how do we prove it. Okay, so let us say they have given us a partition S. Okay, and so these are the nodes. These are two graphs. This is node S. The graph that is S, and the vertices are in S, and these are the vertices in V minus S. Okay, given a partition S, let edge E be the minimum cost edge that crosses the partition. Okay, every minimum spanning tree contains HE. Okay, so that is what is the minimum, the minimum cut property. Okay, so what we are saying is we will consider, and so now how do we prove it, right? Typically we want to prove that if there is a case like this, okay, so minimum spanning tree will always contain the edge, the edge that crosses the cut that has a minimum weight. So to prove this, again we prove it by contradiction. Okay, how do we prove it by contradiction? We assume that there are various edges. Let us say this, the minimum weight edge is E and the weight is E dash, that is not the minimum weight edge. Suppose for connecting these two parts of the vertices, rather than selecting E, I select E dash, right? Rather than selecting E, I select E dash. Then what will happen? If I select E dash, obviously my spanning tree will not be of minimum weight edge, right? So that means I have to select E. 1 second, students. I am. No, I'm not checking how many of you are there, plus 24. 33 attendees only. Please, someone has unmuted, so it is. Sri Ram Charan, what is happening? I'm getting lot of disturbance.
Actually, connection, ma'am.
Okay, my connection is it?
Yes.
I don't know about you, but I'm getting lot of disturbance. I mean,
Ha, ma'am. Your connection only.
this is what has to be done then. Is it okay? If it is audible, it is. Is it fine? Is it not
is
that bad,
audible.
right? Yeah.
No, ma'am, it is
Okay.
all fine.
Okay. Okay. Fine. So, right. So that is how we prove it. So consider an MST with edge E dash, that is not the minimum edge. So if that is not the minimum edge, then using E instead of E dash still connects the graph. Okay, but produces a tree with smaller weights. Like that, we can prove the minimum cut property, right? So then we talk about, so the next algorithm that finds the minimum spanning tree is your Kruskal's algorithm that works with this property. Okay, so algorithm is very, very simple. So what you do is, you all of you know, let me just remind you, what you do is, you make the typical partitions, right? You make the typical partitions, and every time you choose pair of vertices, okay, and you basically pick the edge, you pick the minimum edge, and you see that if that edge has the two nodes uv such that they belong to a different partition, then you add that edge. Otherwise you don't add that edge. So every time the idea is, I am going to join the different partitions, right? So typically what we are going to do in Kruskal's algorithm, we are going to have partitions. So now the question is, how do I make partitions initially, right? So initially I can consider how many number of nodes, those many number of partitions, right? Just keep something in, maybe something should come in mind, okay? So if I have A, B, C, D, E, so A, B, C, D, E, all of them are different partitions. And then I am going to sort all the edges. Okay, so that I always try to add the minimum weight edge, right? So I pick the first minimum edge and then I see whether this belongs. So if I select, let us say AC, then I should see whether A and C belong to different partitions or not. If they belong to different partition, I can add that edge. Okay, so I add that edge and then I have to update the partitions. Now A and C are going to be in the same set, and rest all will be in the other set. Like that, we will keep on picking the next minimum edge, But we have to see the minimum edge, the two nodes of the minimum edge should belong to the different partition. If they are in the same partition, we are not going to add them. Right? So that is how with minimum cut property, we get the minimum spanning tree using Kruskal's algorithm. Right? So given a partition S, let edge E be the minimum cost edge that crosses the partition. Every minimum spanning tree contains edge E. This is a typical property that we are going to apply in Kruskal's algorithm. So that is what is the algorithm. Simple, very simple. Kruskal G, okay, but yes, we will discuss its complexity. Kruskal G for all V belongs to V. So this is the algorithm which only takes G as an input, and then this is the first two steps. For all V belongs to V, make set V. So now what is make set V? We are saying that make a set of nodes V. Make set V. Okay, so you are going to make a set. Make set V typically will actually do what it will do here is we have just represented it in form of just one function. We have not described it. The meaning is for every vertex you make a set of V. Right? So the thing is, if A, B, C, D, 5 vertices are there, then make set A, make set B, make set D, like that. So you are typically going to have initially those many number of sets, and in each set you are going to have only one node. That is what is the meaning. For all V belongs to V, make set V. So this will typically run mod V times. Mod V times you are going to make a set. And then you say T is an empty set. Why T is an empty set? Because T is the spanning tree that I am going to build upon. So initially there is nothing in my spanning tree. At the end, in spanning tree, I will have my number of edges. I will typically add the edge in the tree. Okay, so I'm not adding vertices, I'm actually adding the edges in the tree here. So that is the initialization step, first three. Then the next thing we do is sort the edges of E by weight. Typically we take the weights as an edge. Okay, then for all edges UV belongs to E in increasing order of weight. Okay, so this is what I told you. If find set U is not equal to find set V. The meaning is find set U V means suppose you got an edge AE. We are finding out what is the set of A and what is the set of C. Find a set, because every time the size of set will increase and the sets will be dynamic here. The sets will keep on changing. You are going to update the sets. So every time you get an edge A, you want to add an edge AB or AC or AD, you want to check what is the set of A and what is the set of B, what is the set of U, what is the set of V. If it is not same, then we are going to add that edge to the tree. Right? Otherwise, it will not enter. You will not add that edge. So what you will do is you will select the next increasing order edge. Okay. So if you are not going, so if you don't find that, if that edge typically is not satisfying this property, you are going to go to the check the next edge. For all the edges, you need to do this. And every time you are going to add an edge to T, inside this itself, you see that by the formatting we see, whenever I add an edge to T, we merge the sets of those two vertices. That is, find set U, find set V. So whatever was the set of U and whatever was the set of V, you are going to make one set out of it, so that they two belong to the same set. Right? So simple. So typically, this is what you can say. The whole property, whatever the algorithm we discussed, is in one simple line. It is this: add smallest edge that connects two sets not already connected. Whatever we said, whatever big algorithm we discussed, it is this: add the smallest edge that connects the two sets those are not already connected. So we want to make MST of this. Right? So for example, here what we do is we make A, C, E, B, D, F. So initially these many sets are there as per our algorithm. A, B, C, D, E, F. And then we have a sorting of edges. Sorting of edges means the sorting of edges will say that the minimum edge is 1. Right? So then we will check the set. The two sets, one is A, one is C, and these two are not in the same set. So we are going to add AC. right? And now we have this as one set, right? So how many sets are there? AC is one set, E, F, D, and B are different sets still. Those sets belong to they are different sets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sets now. So typically now if I see the sorting of H, so I will get CD as the next edge, right? So now can I add CD? Yes, I can add CD because C belongs to one set and D belongs to another set. So I can add CD. I have just added CD. After adding CD, now I have four sets. One is ACD and another one is E, F, and B. So this has become one set, one set, one set, and one set. Now again, typically I have to see the sorting of edges. So now when I sort the edges, so I find the next edge as 3, right? I find the next edge as 3. But when I say 3, I cannot add it because if I add 3, it belongs to the same set, A and D. I mean, it belongs to the A and D belongs to the same set. So we do not add 3, right? So the next question is, I have to add. So when I go for the next sorting of edge, the next sorting of edge is 4, right? So now when I add 4, now typically I can take any one. Now 4 means I can, now, if I say 4, I have so many edges with 4. I have CB, I have AB, I have CF, and I have BD, right? Is there any other thing that we check in the algorithm? Sort the edges of E by weight. For all edges, UV belongs to E in increasing order of weight. There is no other condition, right? We only check the increasing order of weight, right? So for all edges. So I just have to check that sorting, right? So we can pick anything. Okay, so we have picked it here. Now we can pick anything after this. So let us say, it can be other way around also, students. Okay, we will do it the other way around also. So suppose I select this AB. Okay, so there is a tie basically, if I could have even selected BD, I could have even selected CF because all of them have same weight and all of them satisfy the property. So now if I select AB, I have to check these two belong to the different set. So we can pick AB. Okay, so after picking AB, now I have one set, A, B, C, D, and I have another set. There are 3 sets now. One set is this, another set is E, and another set is F. Right? So now we pick the next edge. Now if I pick the next edge, if I pick BD, I cannot go ahead because BD belongs to the same set. If I pick BC, again, it will not work out because they belong to the same set. So the next edge that I am bound to select is CF, right? So once I select CF, it goes like this. So now I have this one full set and then E is a separate set. So the next edge that I select is going to be 5 as per the weight. So I am going to select 5 because it belongs to the different set. Now next edge that I'm going to select will be 6, right? But 6 I cannot add because now everything has become one set only. There is no different set, right? So that could be that is the terminating condition of the algorithm. Okay, so I want you to typically see, students, if rather than selecting AB, if I select BD, then what will happen? If I select BD means then I will not be able to select AB and BC then also, right? And my total, minimum spanning tree, the total cost will remain same, right? So here, rather than selecting, after this, if I had selected BD, right? I cannot select, after that, I cannot select AB and BC. Rest, everything will be same. Or typically, now if I select, rather than selecting this BD, if I had selected CB, then also minimum cost spanning tree, there are more minimum cost spanning tree. If I select CB, then next time I cannot select AB or I cannot select BD. Then any one we can select out of these. Or here, rather than this, if had we selected CF, that also was possible. That rather than selecting this, now if we had selected CF, that is also fine. If we had selected CF, we will select CF. After that, we have to select Then after that, we can select either BD or either AB or either CB. So there are many spanning trees, minimum spanning trees, those are possible. Right? So that kind of tiebreaker we have to put when we typically implement it. When we write the algorithm, we don't write all those things. Okay, that if what will happen in case of there is a tie. But when we implement it, that time we have to keep it in mind. When you write in your implementation, we have to keep this in mind. All right. So students, its correctness and its complexity, we will be discussing in the next class. Okay, so we will meet on Monday now. All right, students. So thank you very much. We will wind it up here, students. Yeah. Any doubts you can ask, or you can post your queries if anything is there. And I must not forget to upload the slides. I will upload these slides also. Till today's slides I will upload. Okay. Thank you very much, students.
Thank you.
Thank you.